Did y'all get some? You got it in, right? That's all right. That's all right. This is a time, and we're ready. So let's get this party started. Yes, yes, yes. I'm ready.
The Feminine Voice. Investing in Ministry. The Reverend Dr. Venice J. Burns, pastor of Christian Chapel Temple of Faith. Your presenter, the Reverend Dr. Venice J. Burns. Reverend Denise Anders Modest, CME Temple, coordinator of the Commission of Concerns of Women in the Ministry, director of the Board of Christian Education, 4th Episcopal District. Your presenter, Reverend Denise Anders Modest. Children and Youth Through Education, Mrs. Jacqueline I. Scott, doctorate from Cumberland University, member of Mount Pisgah CME Church, Vice President of the Women's Missionary Council. Your presenter, Mrs. Jacqueline I. Investing in Individuals Through Finances and Financial Planning, Dr. Natalie Walker Marshall, current professorship in the area of business and finance, wife of Pastor Jermaine J. Marshall of Mount Olive's CME Church, Orlando, serving in ministry together. Your presenter, Dr. Natalie Walker Marshall. Minister Leslie Watson Malachi, your moderator. Current Director of African American Religious Affairs, recognized as one of 15 faith leaders to watch in 2015. Trainer of Trainers. Your moderator, Minister Leslie Watson Malachi. The Feminine Voice.
Who was that brother I was with on that picture? I need to find out. I can't remember. Yeah, that's okay. Good morning, ladies. Hi, good morning, everybody. How are y'all doing? All right, y'all. So this is the Feminine Voice, but this is about women, for women, but not just about women, for women. Y'all got that right, brothers? We're going to have a conversation here. I'm so excited. I've been ready to get started ever since about 6 o'clock this morning. So I've been anxious to hear what these beautiful women have to say. It was interesting when we were having lunch yesterday, how we were talking about what does this mean, the feminine voice? What is it supposed to be all about? What are we supposed to say? And I was pondering over this last night and this morning, and I said, well, I don't know what the feminine voice is, because my feminine voice might be different from your feminine voice. It might be different from yours. I don't know if this is the feminine voice that said that is about my grandmother's child, Miss Sable, who y'all might not want to know about that voice of hers. I don't know if it's about my mother's voice, Miss Mildred, but when I thought about the women who are here who came from near and far to share their wisdom, I thought about the feminine voice that is about being smart, that is about being prophetic, that's about being powerful and passionate, the feminine voice that is persuasive, y'all. The feminine voice that is protective, that's pleasing, and that is prepared, because we always got to be prepared, right? It's that voice that is low. It's the voice that is high. It is that voice. And so it is time for us to talk about the feminine voice. And so I want to find out. Let's start with you, Mrs. Scott. What is it about the feminine voice and this theme that we have here, the investment factor, that motivates you, that has you all excited, that had you glowing yesterday and has you glowing this morning?
The investment factor. As a woman of the CME Church, I thought about this very seriously. The investment factor to me means preparing us for the future. As a woman, it means looking at the various programs that the women are involved in. To me, I thought about the old ideas that we might have had, those that are relevant to us, and those that we have that have been good for us, that we can keep. But I think that those that are not effective should be done away with, and new ideas, and we shouldn't be afraid. We should have enough courage to change those ideas and practices that are no longer effective. Through the teaching and studying of the Bible, being a part of the Women's Missionary Council, we've studied women of the Bible. Their stories and teachings have given us ideas of how to perform. It's given us ideas of how to respond in life. And to me, I would say to Bishop Carter and also to Bishop Williams, I would say to the two of you.
Doing a roll call.
Oh, sorry. I'll come back later.
No, it's okay. That's okay. Sister Dr. Barnes, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking about when you were preparing, when you were getting ready to, as you get ready to present here about that theme?
Thank you. When you say the feminine voice, or when I was asked to be one of the presenters in regard to the feminine voice, for myself, I know no other voice. So what that meant is just simply speaking from my experience and my ministry and who I am. I cannot speak from a masculine perspective. I have my father's voice in my ear. I have my mentor's voices in my ear. But when I speak, it is how I understand it and view it from a woman. So for me, who I am is my voice.
Dr. Walker Marshall.
Good morning. And thank you. The investment factor from a feminine perspective, what we know is that women are now the majority enterers into the workforce. So we will be working, we will be earning, we will be producing. But what we also know from an investment perspective is that we make less than our male counterparts. You have a greater chance of being divorced than you do of being married as an African American woman. So there are a lot of decisions that we have to make that are different from our male counterparts. So when we think about our investment factor, as a woman, we have to be serious with a capital C. Okay? Very important. The investment factor is not just about wealth, but it's also about our health, because our health is tied directly to our wealth. So the investment factor is multifaceted. It does just not include money, but it includes our spiritual health, our emotional health, our financial health. Okay, all of these are intertwined, and you cannot have one healthy one without another.
That's all right. That's all right. And what you say, Reverend Anders Matas?
Thank you so much. When I think about the theme, the investment factor, and what it means and should mean to us as women of the CME Church, I think of one word, and that's opportunity. I see opportunity glowing all over that notion of investment factor. Our willingness, when I think about our willingness what can we do with what we have? And I'll give you the answer: invest. Investing is taking something that's yours and trusting someone else with it and hoping for a return. And I contend, women, that we can take what we have, as minimum as some may say it is, and we can take it and have great returns. When I think about the investment factor, the willingness is a key for us as women. If I may just share for just the little boy had a fish sandwich, a McDonald's sandwich, a Lunchable. And when Jesus was in need of what he had, he was willing to give it up. Now let me help you there, women. There were other women out in the crowd. And in the investment factor, we have the same opportunity. Each of us have the same opportunity. But if we decide to look at what we have and think that it's minimized or little, it'll never get used. And I contend that if we ever, I believe that there were some other folk in that crowd that had some sack lunches that day. So I see opportunity when I began to see the investment factor. Opportunity for every woman, no matter how small you may think it is, if you put it in the right hands, it can be used for a great return.
I hear amen and see some nods on that. Anything that anybody want to add to that? Yes, please.
I think one of the major factors is I speak with a lot of people on a daily basis about finance, and there's a lot of intimidation because of the amounts, the little. And when I speak with African American women in particularly, they claim that they have fear of losing money, and this is why they don't want to invest. And I say, well, how much are you afraid of losing? Well, I don't want to lose anything. I don't want to lose $1. I don't want to lose $5. I said, well, really? Well, you know, that minky yinky lackey that you got in your hair, right? That was how much? Oh, about $150. Well, when you sold it in, you lost $150. So I said, we have to look at where we're spending this little we say we don't have, right? We don't want to lose. We're fearful of investing in the stock market. But every time you buy a depreciating asset, a rapidly depreciating asset, you've already lost the money, okay? And I tell them, I said, have you ever has the stock market dropped 150% in one day? No. 70% in one day? No. 90% in one day? No. But when we buy rapidly depreciating items, this is how fast we lose our money. So don't worry about the 5 or the 10. If you have 5 or 10, invest that 5 or 10 and let it grow with compounding interest.
And I like that. I like hearing that because we just had a study that came out on the status of black women in America that came out around March or April, and that study says that black women drive the economy. That we spend basically 85 cents of every dollar. That's what it kind of, do you know what that means? What kind of power that means for us? That's incredible. So yes. So let me ask you, Dr. Burns, when you're talking about the investing in ministry, share that. Is that like that we know that I always love to talk about how the ministry for Christ started because we are the I was there. Women. That's our feminine voice. We were, Mary Magdalene was there. She was the first one that was there. She was the first one that went out. She was the first one that confirmed. And so when you talk about ministry, investing in ministry, share a little bit about what that means.
Thank you for that. I first want to speak against what it doesn't mean. Most of us have been traditionally taught that to invest in ministry means to invest in a church, to invest in the pew rally, to invest in getting the windows of the church. And we often miss that investing in ministry is about investing in people. And our focus in many of our churches, we've lost our focus because when we spend more time and energy trying to keep the church and the church building up, while we're doing that, we are missing that folk are walking out the door, that people are leaving because their needs are not being met. And so when we talk about investing in ministry, it means taking a very careful, prayerful look at the people that God has called us to be in the midst of. And I want to say be in the midst of because a lot of us have commuter churches. And so we drive by folk, we drive by communities, and then we come within our walls, we get filled up spiritually, and then we take all of our filled up spiritually back on home as we get ready to talk about it over Sunday dinner, but nobody's life has been changed. And so investing in ministry means taking an honest and a holistic look at the needs of your people, the needs of the community, and then finding out within those who are called by Jesus, what is it that motivates you? You know, what did you notice? If you're going to if you're the commuter church, what did you notice as you were driving? The things that you noticed, somebody else didn't notice. So why did you notice that? And so it means that God has put something within you, that you saw something, but you didn't just see it to see it. God allowed you to see it to do something about it. And so that when we can begin to realize that how we see life, how we see people, it is also a gift of God for the beginning of the process of how we are to do ministry.
Like that gift from God, the gift from God. Mrs. Scott, you're an educator. And so when Dr. Burns was just saying the holistic look, what motivates, how do we see something that we can do, that we do different. What does that mean for you as an educator and focusing on our community, focusing on our young people?
To me, education is a must for a promising and secure future for our children and our youth. It provides them knowledge of the world around them, cultivates them, each one of them. They mature, and to mature individuals, they're able and capable of planning for the future, and they're able to make right decisions in life. Through education, many of us, as we've grown up, we're able to interpret things correctly and applying the gathered information that we've gathered into real life scenarios. Our children and youth develop self-confidence, the ability to think, the ability to analyze and to judge accordingly. It opens a whole new world to our children. Then we think about our poor children and our poor youth. It gives them an opportunity, an equal opportunity as well, for a good paying job with a good education. It helps them financially. They become financially independent. Education is the most powerful weapon that we can use in order to change the world. And in a statement by our President of the United States, he stated, in a global economy, he says, where the most valuable skill you can sell is your knowledge, a good education is no longer just a pathway to opportunity, it is a prerequisite. So I say to you, and I say to our churches, that you have opportunities to help our children. You can organize a tutorial program in your church. Many of our students are having difficulties in school. They have homework assignments that they're not able to even complete. Churches can provide computers. They can provide leaders in the church. In the church that I attend, we have many educators, lots of lawyers in my church. We did organize a homework. Okay, excuse me. Okay, we did organize a homework center where the children came with their homework, and our leaders in our church came and helped them through those difficult assignments that they had. You can also organize an educational ministry within your church. And by doing this, you can honor and give awards to those children who've done a great job in their classrooms. Give them awards and let them stand up and come forward. Then the educational ministry can provide programs in the church to train our young people in order to be a superintendent in the church, a worship leader in the church. They can do all these things that will help our children. They can also raise funds for scholarships. As I've been the vice president of the Women's Missionary Council, I found that endowments at our colleges and universities is one reason why the historical black colleges and universities do not have the money that is necessary for our children to complete their college education.
Yes.
Yes. Right. So what I'm saying is these scholarship funds with the educational ministry can help our young people. And that's something, too, that the Women's Missionary Council does, too. I can also say that you heard from our international president, but I'm the vice president of the Women's Missionary Council. I just mailed off 225 $200 scholarships to students in the historical black colleges and universities all over this country to help them. And all they had to do was fill out an application, make sure that application was complete, and they were given that $200.
That's all right.
Also, we give other scholarships as well.
Sure.
And you know about that. There were high educational scholarships. We had 15 students, and some of them will get $4,000 for the next 4 years. They'll get $4,000 a year, which is $6,000 for 4 years.
That's definitely investing
Yes.
in our future, investing in our community. What did you said you wanted to address that?
I did. Thank you, Minister Malachi. And I want to address the education from my perspective of also investing in ministry. Because a lot of times when we look in our churches, we talk about what our churches ought to do with having education or tutorial or doing those things. But there's also a mindset of some other folk who say, well, I'm not a teacher, I don't have a degree, I think it's a good idea, but they don't know how to be a part. Mm-hmm. And so if we're talking about having an honest kind of education or tutorial ministry within the church, then it also means looking at other people who are to help that to take place. And I think that we miss that, and some of us say, well, I've tried to get an education ministry started, or I tried to get tutorial, but I couldn't get anybody, to come or to show up. And so if we begin to look at our resources, we have to say to ourselves, well, what does it take for the education ministry to be successful? And so what it takes, I heard her say, well, you have to give awards and you want to give ribbons. So there's some people in your church, though, they might not feel like they can teach or tutor, but they can make the ribbons. You say, well, the kids aren't getting here. Well, there's somebody who says, well, I can't make ribbons and I can't tutor, but I can drive a van. Yes. Or somebody says, well, they get here, they're going to be hungry. Well, I can't tutor, but I can feed them. I can provide something for them. And so I think many of our churches, we miss that because we just say, well, we had a tutorial ministry, nobody showed up. But what are all the other factors that are involved in that?
There's so much more that's out there that is not being tapped in and not being creative enough, not being open in order for our young people to be successful. And also for not just our young people, but when we're talking about investing, we know that we have a lot of folks who we've got the non-traditional students, those who may have gone to high school and had life to happen to them. And so they come in later on and they end up getting their education. So that investment and that understanding, that creativity has to be looked at in a very broad sense. And I know that for you, Reverend Modest, I know that thinking about what's happening with the local church and the district and the region, all of that, all of the connection, what I love is the connection of all of these pieces. Because again, when we talk about the feminine voice, what we definitely demonstrate is how women are multifaceted, multi-connected, that we are multi. So share a little bit about, from what you've heard and how that fits into your ministry, what it is that you're doing, what you want to tell folks about.
Great. Thank you so much. Again, that investment factor is the piece of that opportunity that every one of us have, but especially as women. When I look at that word factor, and that word factor defined as something that helps produce a result or an outcome. And I believe that every one of us are factors, and we have investment is more than finance. Investment is our creativity. When I think about us as women in ministry, I recall the HGTV show. Many of you have seen Joanna Gaines and Chip. They take fixer-upper homes. They take homes that are in good locations but bad homes, and they turn them around. And that's what we're called to do. We're called as women. We have the vision to see what is not, and we're going to have to invest our creativity in our local churches, because I believe that investing starts from the inside out. I often get really tickled because when a man is looking, he looks for a turnkey. He looks for a custom built home. He looks for a fully furnished home. But women, we have the power to go in with our sense of creativity and take a fixer-upper and make it a home. We'll make it a great church. Yeah, it becomes a palace for us. We don't have to have the entire gut out. As long as there's a foundation. If there's a foundation, we can work from it, brothers. Yeah, we'll take what used to be the kitchen and flip it over to the bedroom. We'll take what used to be a dead Sunday school class and make it a great Christian education. So I believe that we are called in that sense of creativity, that we can take fixer-uppers, we can take them and make much from it. We don't have to have the mega church or the giga church. Just give us the right location. Just give us visibility. Give us an opportunity, and we will get it done. And I believe that that's what we're called to do. If we're going to do some investments, we got to start from the inside out. Start in your own home. Start in your own local churches, and watch what happens on the district and the region.
Wow. Yeah, start there. Start there. Dr. Walker Marshall, what do you have to say to that?
Well, I think that I'd have to say she is absolutely right. And a critical part of being able to add value in any situation is having the education, skills, and knowledge. For a lot of us within our churches to be able to assist, we have to have the knowledge. That calls us to get it if we don't have it, which means we will have to read, we will have to educate ourselves, we will have to go to trainings, which requires time and effort. And if we look at the educational landscape, just within America, 30% of the population has a bachelor's degree. 10% of the population, less than 10%, has a master's degree, and less than 2% have terminal degrees. But what we know is as your education increases, so does your income by about $20,000 per degree. So if we look at the average bachelor's, it's about $50,000, master's 70, doctorate, the average salary is about 90. So it's very important that when we're thinking about adding this value, that we go out and get those educational tools that we need, because what I see, people have a lot of vision, but I say, have you gone out and gotten the education and the training that you need to deliver? Because then you cannot implement effectively, which ties back to the endowments for our universities. We graduate, we go out and get a job, but we don't give back. And that's where a lot of the education and the training comes into play. But that is also tied to having a strategic plan and a strategic vision, not only for ourselves, our churches, our schools, our lives. Again, that all goes back to that holistic, model that I was talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm. And that holistic model, when we, again, I love the HGTV show, and I'm a visual person, so I saw walls coming down, I saw things being painted, I saw flea markets and garage sale stuff, all of that, having a good time. But when we, those of us who are in ministry, have been in ministry for a long time, again, we look at not just the mind, but it's the body, it's the spirit. We look at all of the different aspects of what it is to be in ministry. And I'm wondering if you all want to just, what do you all think about the whole idea of where we are right now in the 21st century, and how we are still, we're investing in ministry, we're investing in the local, the region, the district, investing in finance and education, but we are still faced with internally and externally some of those stereotypes, some of those gender biases of where we should be. Is that something that you have experienced that has been a challenge, or maybe even been one of those, made you one of those 828 Romans 828 witnesses where, so that all things work together for good? But any experience in your particular area, in your focus area of ministry that you'd care to share about? They scared.
I'm not scared.
You're not scared?
Okay, so I think, I assume I'm probably the youngest person on the panel. Okay.
Hey.
So I don't have
Hey.
40 or 50 years of experience to speak from, but I would just say, I grew up in the CME church from a little baby. Okay, Dr. Burns, I got you, baby, 2 or 3 years.
We old. But go ahead on.
But I will say I have been a member of the CME church all my life, so, 34 years. But one of the things that I think this time is for restoration. We are in a season where education is abundant for us, opportunity is abundant for us. And so the things that we may have lacked in the past, the opportunity is now to go back and to reclaim. So I think for the CME church, just looking at all of the struggles that we had and still have, this is an excellent opportunity to refocus and align ourselves with all of the positive things that are happening in our community. So an excellent time to refocus our ministries on health and wellness. An excellent time to refocus our ministries on education. An excellent time to refocus our ministries on our spiritual and mental wellness. But there are so many areas that because we have so much access to education, we have so much access to opportunity, we have so much access to everything that we need, we can go back for those of us who have not done what we should have done and start doing restorations. And all we need is a clear vision from our leadership, our local leadership, our state leadership, and our national leadership to help us move forward.
Sure. You want to?
I would like to just add to something that I would like to see added to the CME Summit. Domestic violence. To me, and I look at my own city of Memphis, where I live, where crime, I believe Memphis has the 3rd largest crime city in the United States. And I think as a woman, and if we are investing in the future, the investment factor, I think we should invest in workshops and seminars that would basically speak to women on domestic violence, things that we need to know in order to get out of these situations that will give us knowledge of what's best for us. So I think that's a program that we can add, something about domestic violence to help women.
That's a very strong part. That's a part of the silence of the black churches. We don't talk enough about that. And Dr. Burns, all of these things again, and you're in the view around ministry and what ministry is and what it means. We know that there is the salvation, there is the Lord, but there's also the day-to-day that people are struggling with. Give a little bit share a little bit about what you are going to be sharing with your audience this afternoon in the breakout session, for them to want to come in and hear a little bit more about investing in ministry with your experience and perspective.
I believe that every one of us has a special gift. We have a special purpose and a special call. It becomes a twofold effort to understand that. One, you need a leader who has a vision and who is not threatened by the strengths of others. The other is that when you have a leader who has a vision and is not threatened, something inside of you should become motivated something inside of you should be sparked to want to find your place and to find your niche. Too many times in our church, we've limited ministries to those that the discipline specifically outlines. You know, if you're not a steward, if you're not a trustee, if you are not a stewardess, if you are not an usher, if you're not in the choir, then you kind of begin to wonder, where do I fit in? You know, I see the children, but I don't like children. You know, I think something ought to be done for children, but I don't have the patience for children. So that's not where I fit in. And too many times we've limited people to, it's like being a square trying to fit into a triangle, a peg. You're trying to force people to do something, and then when you try to force them to do it, then they'll do it, but it won't be ministry. They're doing it because they're being asked to do it, not because they feel called to do it. And I believe all of us have been called, whether we are clergy or whether we're lay, we've all been called to do something, and it becomes up to us to find that very specific thing that we've been called to do. And when we do it, it's hard to stop anybody within the church from working when they're doing what they believe God has purposed them to do.
And how about you, Reverend Miles? What are you going to be sharing this afternoon?
I'm sharing what it takes to invest. Investment requires power. We're going to just look again at the power that has been given us. Acts 1 and 8, we'll look at that again. I'm talking about the fact that investment requires power, but investment requires commitment, that we've got to be committed in what we're doing. When you invest in something, you sow into it. You give your all into it. And we've got to be great sales personnel in this business. So I'll talk about investing requires commitment, but I'll also talk about investing requires change and requires releasing our fears of failing. I will encourage us as we talk about the local church, the regional church, and the district church, that we've got to take some real risk. We've got to take some risk in this ministry. And yes, and understand that it's not failure, but we have to understand the ministry sometimes it's just not right now, but not failure. So we'll look at a lot of areas, but we'll talk about how we can invest, how we can become greater salespersons, because any good investment company knows that their greatest threat are other salespersons in other investment companies. So we've got to be the best salesperson for Christ Jesus that we can possibly be, and we'll show you how you can be a great investment and asset to the body of Christ.
All right, I like that. Great salesperson. And share with us a little bit about what you're going to be sharing with others this afternoon on finance. Yes.
Okay. So today, my session will be about wealth building. And I'm going to speak from a biblical perspective, and the topic will be the 10 Commandments of wealth building. So I will talk about a lot of the myths that people have about wealth, about the Bible and what it says about wealth, and how you can build wealth if you have $25 a month. Okay? So a lot of the teaching that I do is for people who don't have $150, $300, $500, and I break it down on how you can systematically invest with just $25 a month. And I give you all of the biblical principles to help you understand that this is what you should be doing. I think in the church, one of the critical issues that we have is people feel like money, millionaire, wealth are dirty words. But the Bible calls us to be wealthy. The Bible calls us to be lenders and not borrowers. The Bible tells us we should leave wealth for our children's children. So there are a lot of scriptures that we overlook because of the poverty mindset that has basically been institutionalized within the church, which 30, 40, 50 years ago we didn't have money. So we couldn't really talk about it. We couldn't really discuss all of the benefits of saving and investing because we had just enough. But here, fast forward in 2015, we have more than enough. Because the average African American household will run through $1 million in their time in the workforce. 30 times 30 is $900,000. I meet people every day that say, I wish I could be a millionaire. I said, I'm sure $1 million has passed through your hands. Pull up your Social Security statement and add up the last 30 years. You have made over $1 million. What have you done with the money? Can I get an amen from anybody? Okay, so I meet people every day that say, I want to be a millionaire. I say, God has blessed you with your millions. You spent it all. Every quarter. Okay, so we're going to be discussing what are these 10 biblical principles that can get me on track if I'm not on track, and how do you know if you're on track? By age 35, 1 time your annual salary in retirement, 45, 3 times your annual salary, 55, 5 times your annual salary, and by age 62, 7 times your annual salary in retirement as a minimum. If you don't have that, I need to see you in my session because we need to talk about what you're going to do to get there. Okay, it's estimated that within retirement, you will need $250,000 for your health care. Otherwise, you will die early. Yes, ma'am, because you will not have the money to sustain your life and your insurance will not cover. So these are critical things that we need to discuss. We cannot run the Michael Kors every day, Coach, Dooney and Burke, and the nail salon because Ming Lee, Asian Americans have the highest net worth and income of any race in the United States, $68,000. And African Americans have the lowest.
No, don't say that. Don't say that my money is building their wealth.
Oh, yes, it is, ma'am. $68,000, Ming Lee, yes, ma'am, is what they make on an annual basis. And Keisha, ours is 32. Okay? So we have to talk about it and we have to get serious because it is important. We make the money, we spend it on depreciating assets. Yeah. And in the church, people say, well, you know, we don't want to talk about money in the church. Yes, we do, because we need our money. The more we make, the more we can tithe. The more we can tithe, the stronger our churches can be. And the bigger our CME endowment can be that we need to start. Okay? So we don't have to pay conference claims if we have a $10 million endowment that is funding the CME church. Amen? Oh, amen, baby. I got one friend in the audience. One friend. Okay? 2. God bless me, Bishop. Bless me. More than 2. Okay. So this is my passion. I love helping people build wealth. I love helping my people build wealth because I know we don't have a lot. But again, if you have $25 a month, please come to the session and let's talk about how God can help me bless you financially. And when you retire, you can be on a yacht and not on a rowboat. Amen?
So me being I don't guess I'll be a good steward going down the street to the premium outlet store right now, right? Because ain't none of us selling Kate Spade. You say that's okay, right? Dr. McClay said it's okay, it's on sale. So we're going to factor that into the session this afternoon, y'all, okay? It's okay when it's on sale, all right? I'm saving, so what that 10% I'm saving, that 10% go to the church. There you go right there. I got my formulas, okay? So, Sister Scott, what do you have to say about this afternoon?
That 10% that you're saving and what you're talking about, get started early. Education is not cheap. Education, a college education today is about $50,000 plus. So parents, grandparents, and all of us sitting here today, many of you have grandchildren that you're having to invest in now. And you still have to help those children you have. So early in life, I know you started a bank account. So you would have the funds that was necessary for your children to graduate from college. Today in the 21st century, if your children are not prepared, and what I have this afternoon in my class is to help you get prepared. You have to be prepared. You get prepared by that bank account that you're going to start early. Then you start with that child when they're at an early age. And you make sure that they're teaching your child or your grandchildren what should be taught. And once they progress through, the first 12 years are your formative years, and they progress through school. You get into junior high and high school, and they better have what is needed to pass the ACT test. If they don't, they will not be able to get in that top-ranked school that you want them to get into. So you prepare them early, especially beginning in the 9th grade. They should be prepared so they can pass those tests. Then there are programs out there where they can get a scholarship. We have a program in Memphis called, not Memphis, but the state of Tennessee, called the Tennessee Promise. And if that child is graduating and has the right GPS, have the right grade point average, then that student can attend junior college for 2 years free in the state of Tennessee. But they have to have a 2.5 grade point average in order to attend. How will they get that? You have to prepare them for that. You don't just walk into college. They won't accept you. You have to be ready. So parents, you have to prepare your children, and grandparents, you have to help them, prepare them for college. So this afternoon, come on and find some more information that you can use in order to take back to your churches and your families so that our children will get this money that she's talking about, become millionaires like Donald Trump. You know, money can buy you anything today. So in order for them to progress in life and to get what is necessary, you need to come to my session this afternoon on investing in children and youth through education.
Now, see, my sister, she just sat up here and said money can buy everything, and y'all know that I do vote stuff. So, of course, I'm like, no, it can't. Can't buy my vote. It will not buy my vote. So, no. And what I know about history, somebody said something about history earlier. We do have a model for what it means to be financially wealthy because what was her name? Alice Walker was one of the first. Exactly, the first black millionaires that there was out there. We have had banks. We know all of that. We have great educators in Mary McLeod Bethune. Yes. We've had great models, great examples, and still have some of those today that show us what we can do, what things are possible. So let me just, I think as I prepare to get somebody to bring a microphone to the floor so we can see if anybody has any questions for our panelists. I'm just wondering if there's anything else that you all would like to add again to, I'm from Louisiana, so it's like put a little bit more flavor in the gumbo, gives more spice to it, about why is it that you're in this particular area, focus area that you're in? Why are you talking about ministries, your particular ministries in the way that you do with the kind of passion that you have? What was any motivation around that you want to share?
I'll share. I grew up CME, and I grew up with my grandmother, who was a faithful CME. And I used to see her writing out her tithe check every first Sunday. She was on disability, so her check was only $636. And she would write out her tithe check for $65 to the church on first Sunday, every Sunday. And she was very diligent with her spending and her financial management because she didn't have a lot. But when she died, she had her insurance, she had assets to pass on to her children. And I see such a lack of that in our community, just, even in our own church, people pass and, we're trying to raise money and, everybody's, nervous and how we're going to bury this person. And a lot of this just goes back to the lack of financial education. And when I first, married my husband, I assumed that all of the finances for all of the churches were just in order because I was late. So I just assumed that everything was just in order. When I got on the other side, I realized that there was a lot lacking, not only in the church, but also for the membership. And then having worked in corporate America and managing millions and millions of dollars, I saw the structure and the discipline and the system that had helped so many organizations build substantial wealth. And I thought it would just be a wonderful opportunity for me as a now educator to share that with the church and with my students and just within the ministry overall. So definitely a motivating factor for myself.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody have any thoughts or questions that you'd like to share while you have a chance for with this fabulous feminine voice panel that's here? Oh gosh, we got trouble. We got trouble back there. I don't know if we can get a microphone or she gonna say she got a voice. That she has a voice. This is her feminine voice. Let's hear. Here she go. Here she go.
Thank you so much. You know I love you dearly.
Love you more, honey.
And I do have a feminine voice.
Yes,
yes. It all came from God, and I can't stop it.
Yes.
But I do want to commend the panel. And I want to commend the bishop who decided that the women could have a feminine panel to discuss. But when I think about our church, our church, you hear people say, oh, people are leaving my church. Well, we are the church. So what new opportunities are we providing for people to stay in our church? We are in the 21st century. We can do things like we used to do. I own a business. Well, first let me just tell you, I retired when I was 58 years of age. I've been in education for 35 years. And I got pneumonia. And I saw the lights of heaven open up. So when I went back to work, I called my board president and said, listen, my contract is not going to be renewed because I'm making that decision. I'm leaving June 23rd, 2000. They said, you can't do that. I said, just watch me. So they said, what are you going to do? I said, wherever God leads me to do. I went off to New Jersey, opened a charter school for Edison. Biggest mistake in my life. I miss my mother and my sisters every day. I came back to Buffalo. And in 2007, I brought together my beautician. I brought together a woman in the community whose husband was an investor. And we organized Unlimited Possibility, Overcoming Poverty Ministry, Inc. It is now 8 years old.
Amen.
Our ministry has given to high school girls who graduate, get enrolled in college. They have received over $30,000. They get $1,000 every year as long as they are in school. What am I saying to us?
I'm going to bring you up on the panel.
A new opportunity.
Yes.
To have a feminine voice in our church because we are the church.
Yes. Amen. 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 Anybody else? This sweet thing in front of keeps taking my picture, and I keep telling folks that I'm single. So before you take my picture, let me make sure that. That okay? I got lipstick on, right? I don't know where that picture going. Nah, she say she married. So, yes, ma'am.
Praising God. As the women of the church, the panelists on the panel, I heard someone say we were over 80% of the congregation of this church as women. How do you, the panelists, account for the fact that we are over 80%, yet we only have one feminine voice in the bishopcy?
Amen. Everybody in the audience said, ooh. I don't know. Everybody said, I ain't touching that. I ain't touching that.
Well,
and the audience is saying they ain't scared.
I think this is what we have to understand. When you look at the makeup of our bishops' council, I think we have to look at historically how the church has been ran. And historically, the church has been ran by men. And this is no different from the majority of businesses and organizations within the United States. Why is there a lack of women CEOs that represent 3% in corporate America? Why are there a lack of minorities, represented in the Supreme Court? Why? This is systemic. Okay, I don't think it's anything that is meant to be a detriment to the organization, because the organization has flourished all of these years. So I think one of the things that we have to consider, not just sex, but stability, opportunity, growth, development, and the ability of the organization to thrive and grow. So I think in the future, we will see more diversity in our Bishops' Council, but I think one thing that we always want to understand is that there is still value in everyone that is capable of achieving and growing and developing within organizations. Amen?
Absolutely, and I definitely want to lift up our Bishop Thornton, who is doing a phenomenal job. Her ministry, her work, her being a model, and most definitely, if you have something to say, who am I to say that Bishop Thornton, who the mother, she gonna speak. She got a bishop's voice and a mother's voice.
And
please.
First, I'm gonna give y'all a heads up. I want to commend the brothers who are here this morning. But I'm gonna give y'all a heads up. If I get the mic later today, I'm gonna ask the other brothers where were they. Just because they saw women's feminine voice, did they sleep in this morning because they thought it wasn't important? Because I think that's a real issue in the church, that we tend to want to see the issue of women's voices as a marginalized issue rather than an issue that is of interest. I taught a class at Campbell School of Theology on multicultural pastoral care. Every student in the class was black, although only 10% of the student body was black. Because when people see multicultural, they tend to think, oh, that's for black people. When they see the feminine voice, oh, that's for women. No, we have really got to break through the way in which, well, let me say this, we need a new paradigm. And I think one of the opportunities before us around this issue of leadership in the church, even at the Episcopal level, is for us to shift the paradigm to what the church needs in this day and in this time. And I think the church needs not to think about its leadership in the way we've thought about it historically, which, in my estimation, has been gender biased towards males, sometimes popularity, sometimes politics. When are we going to talk about competencies? And what are the competencies we need in the leadership of the church? I think if we can begin to shift our election process and our selection process, and this is even down to the local level, to getting people who have the competencies and the skills and the passion and the call to do what needs to be done in the church of today, we will have accomplished something major. So I really hope that we can begin to embrace all voices and not see when it's just the children's voice, that's not just for children, it's for all of us. When it's the feminine voice, it's not just for women, it's for all of us.
That's right. And
that would be a radical shift in the church and benefit us all.
And that reinforces what we were saying earlier on. I know that that we're pressed for time. We actually started. Had 20 minutes late because of the previous speaker, but I have some out very quickly, ladies. If you can do the 10 to 20 second spiel. If you can't do it in 10 to 20 seconds, then we'll talk in the lobby. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to say that we have to come together. The day that our beloved Bishop Thornton was elected, it was a woman who said and went down the aisle against everybody and everything else, it's tea time. And then it was a man who joined her and said that my vote go to tea. It's
Amen.
tea time. So when we vote, and we take a stand against all odds by looking at the competency of our women, we're able to do what we want to do. We don't have to look at the men, it's us.
Amen. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I love the bishops. I love them all. And in response to the lady, yes, we are 80%. We are the ones to blame for not electing a woman. We're too busy fighting each other and not standing together. So the moment that we stand behind a woman that we believe can do it and stand and not be divisive in the hallway, say one thing and do another, then we'll have another woman bishop.
And I would just like to expand on the suggestion. It was suggested that we would include domestic violence. My suggestion is we would include breast cancer.
Amen. Thank you. So, ladies, as we get ready to depart this stage, you have the 10 seconds to, again, the highlight. Why come, the sales for why come to your session this afternoon? 10 seconds. Sister Scott.
Well,
10 seconds. You just lost 3.
Coming to my session this afternoon will enlighten you of all the information you need in order to move your children or your grandchildren through the process of education and making sure that they receive this education because they will need it in life. In the world that we live in today, this is the 21st century. Okay.
My session again will be the 10 Commandments of Christian Wealth Building, and we will focus on biblical education related to wealth and a strategy where you can start saving and investing with $25 a month.
Yes, ma'am. 10 seconds, yes.
come and see me so I can share with you how to get back into invest in your church so you can see the power of the church, the progress of the church, and you can see people in the church, and I'll show you how to do that.
If you're missing the spark, if you're missing the excitement, not only about ministry, but about your life, you want to come to my class so that you can get in touch with your gifts and your place, not only in the church, but what God has purposed you for your life. So come to my class today. All right.
Thank you, ladies. Let's thank them. Wonderful, wonderful. We now turn it back over.
Coming to my session this afternoon will enlighten you of all the information you need in order to move your children or your grandchildren through the process of education and making sure that they receive this education because they will need it in life. In the world that we live in today, this is the 21st century. Okay.
My session again will be the 10 Commandments of Christian Wealth Building, and we will focus on biblical education related to wealth and a strategy where you can start saving and investing with $25 a month.
Yes, ma'am. 10 seconds, yes.
Come and see me so I can share with you how to get back into invest in your church so you can see the power of the church, the progress of the church, and you can see people in the church, and I'll show you how to do that.
If you're missing the spark, if you're missing the excitement, not only about ministry, but about your life, you want to come to my class so that you can get in touch with your gifts and your place, not only in the church, but what God has purposed you for your life. So come to my class today. All right.
Thank you, ladies. Let's thank them. Wonderful, wonderful. We now turn it back over